Ethan had rehearsed a dozen polite exits in his head on the drive over. If the conversation stalled, he could mention an early morning. If the vibe felt wrong, he could blame a work call. If his hands started shaking the way they sometimes did when life felt too loud, he could pay the bill, smile, and disappear into the parking lot like he used to disappear into overtime. None of those lines helped when she looked him straight in the face, swallowed hard, and said, "You can leave. I'm a single mom." Her fingers tightened around the edge of the table, white at the knuckles, like she expected the chair across from her to scrape back at any second. Ethan didn't move. He didn't blink. His throat locked. Because the truth was, he had been a single dad long before he ever learned how to order sparkling water without sounding like a stranger in his own life. And as Maya watched him, bracing for rejection, Ethan realized he was standing on the exact same cliff she was, only he hadn't told her he was there. So what would he do now? Walk away like the men in her past, or tell the one thing he'd been hiding since he sat down? That question hung between them like a held breath. 2 short minutes earlier, the date had felt like something out of a warm movie scene, one of those moments people described with a soft smile, as if happiness was a place you could visit without showing an ID. The little restaurant was simple, a brick wall with twinkle lights, a vase of fresh flowers on every table, the low hum of conversation that made it easier to talk without feeling like everyone could hear your heart. Maya had laughed at one of Ethan's stories, an actual laugh, full and unguarded. It had surprised her, like it surprised him. Even the server had smiled as she walked away. Ethan had been thinking, for the first time in a long time, that maybe he was capable of this, of starting over. And then Maya had dropped her sentence like a glass on tile, and everything inside Ethan went quiet. He remembered the first time his daughter asked him if grown-ups could fall in love again. He had been standing by the sink, rinsing apples for school lunches, and Lily had been in her pajamas, holding a stuffed rabbit by one eye. "Daddy," she asked in that K-ful voice kids use when they are testing the air, "do hearts get tired?" He had turned off the faucet and stared at his wet hands, unsure how to answer a question that felt like a tiny hand reaching into a scar. Now, across from Maya, his heart didn't feel tired. It felt exposed. Ethan wasn't the kind of man who liked attention. He had a steady job, a modest house, and a life built around routines that kept him from falling apart. He didn't chase excitement. He chased stability. Stability looked like school drop-offs and dinner at the same time each night. It looked like a calendar on the fridge full of reminders written in bright marker. It looked like him pretending he didn't notice Lily's eyes drift to the empty chair at the table. Tonight was the first time in nearly 3 years that he had put on a nice shirt for someone who wasn't a parent-teacher conference. He'd hesitated at the closet, thumb brushing the sleeve of a blue button-down that used to make his late wife smile. He didn't wear it. It felt like stealing from a memory. Instead, he chose a plain gray shirt, simple and safe, like his life had become. The date wasn't even his idea. His co-worker, a cheerful older woman named Denise, had spent months watching Ethan eat lunch alone with his phone face down, like he was afraid a good moment might try to sneak into his day. One afternoon, she'd slid a piece of paper across the break room table. "Her name is Maya," Denise said. "My niece. She's kind. She's smart. She also has the worst taste in men, which means she's due for a miracle." Ethan had tried to hand the paper back. Denise pushed it right back into his hand. "You're not made of stone, Ethan. You're made of grief. There's a difference." He told himself he was calling Maya out of politeness. He told himself he could stop after one coffee. He told himself Lily didn't need him to be lonely. When he finally heard Maya's voice on the phone, it was calm and warm, the kind that made you feel like you could tell the truth without being punished for it. They met for coffee once. It went well enough to try again. And now they were here, sitting across from each other, with twinkle lights overhead and a sentence between them that was threatening to split the table in half. Maya's eyes searched Ethan's face like she was reading a weather forecast, deciding whether to run for cover. She had been careful all night, he realized. Not cold, not distant, careful. Every time she laughed, she covered her mouth, like joy was too loud. Every time the server walked by, she subtly angled her body toward the exit. Every time her phone lit up, she didn't ignore it, yet she didn't answer either. She flipped it face down and pressed her palm over it, as if she could quiet the buzzing with willpower alone. Ethan had noticed all of it, though he hadn't known what it meant. He assumed she was regretting the date. Now he saw something else, Faye. Not the kind that screams. The kind that sits politely in the corner and never takes its coat off. He took a slow breath. His hands were on the table, open, palms down. He didn't know if his voice would work. "Okay," he said, and his own calm surprised him. Maya flinched anyway. "Okay," she repeated, her eyebrows lifting, her mouth tightening. That's it." Ethan blinked, then realized how it sounded. Like he didn't care. Like he'd already decided. He leaned forward slightly, lowering his voice. "No, I mean, okay as in, thank you for telling me. Okay as in, I'm still here." Maya's shoulders stayed raised, like she hadn't received permission to relax. "You don't have to pretend," she said quickly. "It's fine. People leave. I'm used to it." The way she said it, matter-of-fact, like she was describing traffic, made Ethan's chest ache. A proverb his grandmother used to say drifted into his mind. A door that has been slammed too many times learns to close itself. Maya looked like a door that had learned. Ethan swallowed. "How old?" he asked. Maya blinked, caught off guard. "What?" "Your kid," Ethan said gently. "How old are they?" A pause. Her gaze dropped to the table. When she answered, her voice softened. "He's 7, she said. "His name is Noah." Ethan felt a strange tug at the edges of recognition, like a song he couldn't quite name. 7. Noah. He let the words settle. "That's a good age," he said. "Curious. Big opinions. Shoes always untied." Maya's eyes flicked up. "You sound like you know." Ethan hesitated, and his silence filled the space in a way that made Maya's jaw tighten again. Here it was, the part he hadn't rehearsed, because he never thought he'd get far enough to need it. "I do know," he said, "because I'm a dad too." The sentence came out steady, though his heart hammered against his ribs. Maya stared. Ethan saw the exact moment her brain tried to make the story match her expectations and failed. You're a dad," she repeated slowly. He nodded. "Single dad." Her hands loosened on the table as if someone had removed invisible cuffs. Then, before she could speak, Ethan added, "I wasn't trying to hide it. I was trying to figure out how to say it without making everything feel heavy." Maya let out a breath that sounded like it had been trapped behind her ribs for months. Her eyes glistened, and she blinked fast, annoyed at herself. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked, though her tone carried more confusion than accusation. Ethan looked down at his hands for a moment, then back at her. "Because the last time I told someone I was a single dad, they smiled and said it was sweet, and then they slowly stopped answering. Like my kid was a warning label." Maya's lips parted. She didn't speak right away. Ethan continued, quieter now. "Also because I'm not good at reopening parts of my life. I got used to keeping things in neat boxes. Work box, dad box, grief box. I thought if I kept them separate, nothing would spill." Maya's gaze held his. "Boxes always spill," she said, almost like she was talking to herself. A small, sad smile touched Ethan's mouth. "Yeah, they do." They sat there, letting honesty fill the air, and for the first time that night, Maya's shoulders lowered. The tension didn't vanish. It shifted into something else, something closer to relief. Maya rubbed her thumb over the edge of her napkin, a nervous habit she'd been doing all evening. "I said it like that because—" She stopped, restarted. "I say it like that because I'd rather watch someone leave on purpose than watch them fade away later." Ethan's eyes softened. "So you give them an exit?" She nodded once, embarrassed. "It makes me feel like I'm choosing it." Ethan didn't pity her. He understood her. He remembered his first year alone with Lily. How he kept his phone on silent so he wouldn't have to hear messages from friends asking how he was, because he didn't know how to answer without breaking. He remembered the grocery store aisle where he stood too long in front of cereal because he'd forgotten what brand his wife used to buy. Grief didn't always cry. Sometimes it reorganized your whole personality. Maya took a shaky breath. "Noah's dad isn't." She paused, searching for words that didn't sound like a courtroom. "He isn't consistent. He shows up when it suits him. He disappears when it gets hard. When I started dating again, he made comments. Not threats exactly. More like reminders that he could make things messy. Ethan's jaw tightened. He kept his voice even. That's not okay. Maya gave a tiny shrug that didn't match her eyes. I manage. I always manage. Ethan noticed how automatic that sentence was. Another proverb floated up in his mind, one he wished he'd learned earlier. The strongest people are the ones who finally let someone carry a corner. He didn't say it out loud yet. He didn't want to sound like a poster on a wall. He asked, instead, "Does Noah know you're Hay?" Maya nodded. He does. He knows it's a date. He pretended not to care, and then he asked 19 questions about what you look like. Ethan's lips twitched. Sounds familiar. Maya's eyes narrowed a little, curious now. Your kid, how old? 6, Ethan said. Lily. Maya's face changed in a way Ethan couldn't read right away. Her eyes widened, then softened, then sharpened like she was trying to look through him. Lily, she repeated. Ethan felt that tug again. Recognition. Yeah, he said cautiously. Lily Harper. Maya's hand lifted to her mouth. She stared at him like he'd spoken a secret password. Oh my goodness, she whispered. Ethan's heartbeat stuttered. What? Maya leaned forward, voice dropping. Ethan, I know your daughter. The restaurant noise seemed to fade around him. That's... He shook his head, not understanding. How? Maya's cheeks flushed. She glanced down at her purse, then back up. I work at her school. Ethan blinked. You're a teacher. Speech therapist, Maya said quickly. I help kids with communication support. I see Lily once a week. Ethan's mouth opened, then closed. His brain scrambled to replay his memories, the hallway meetings, the quick hellos, the faces he'd greeted with polite exhaustion. There was one woman, always kind, always gentle, who had knelt to Lily's level during a school event and spoken to her like she mattered. Ethan remembered being grateful, though he'd barely been able to speak that day. That was you, he asked, stunned. Maya nodded, eyes shining now with the strange humor of the universe. I didn't want to say it, she admitted. Not right away. It felt complicated, like I'd be crossing a line. Ethan stared at her, then let out a short laugh that surprised both of them. Maya laughed too, lighter this time. And Noah, Ethan said slowly, pieces clicking into place. Noah is the kid Lily keeps talking about. Maya's smile grew, a little embarrassed. The one who trades her dinosaur stickers for her fruit snacks. Ethan exhaled, half incredulous, half warm to his core. That's him. They sat back, the midpoint of the night shifting beneath them. All the earlier moments replayed in Ethan's mind, reframed. Maya's carefulness wasn't disinterest. It was boundaries. Her phone checks weren't boredom. They were motherhood. Her sentence, "You can leave," wasn't a dramatic reveal. It was armor. And Ethan's own silence earlier, his hesitation to say he was a dad, wasn't mystery. It was Faye. Maya looked at him with a new kind of steadiness. So, she said, attempting a playful tone that wobbled at the edges, this is either fate, or the world's funniest mistake. Ethan smiled, though his eyes still held something serious. Maybe both. The server returned, carrying a basket of warm bread. She set it down with a friendly glance. You two look happier, she said. Maya blinked. Do we? Ethan nodded. I think we do. The server walked away, and Maya whispered, This is absurd. Ethan tore a small piece of bread, still warm. He didn't eat it right away. This changes things, he said softly. Maya's smile faded into something thoughtful. In a good way. In a real way, Ethan answered. Maya's eyes dropped to the table again, and for a moment, the armor tried to slide back into place. The real way is what scares me, she admitted. Because real means people can get hurt. Ethan's gaze didn't leave her. People get hurt when we pretend we're not human too. Maya swallowed. I wasn't expecting tonight to feel safe. Ethan's voice was low. Me neither. For a few minutes, they talked about their kids, and the conversation shifted into that familiar parent territory. Sleep schedules, picky eating, the strange art projects kids bring home that look like a spider had a paintbrush. Maya told him Noah insisted on wearing mismatched socks because he claimed it made him think better. Ethan told her Lily once tried to convince him that the moon followed their car because it was lonely. Maya laughed, hand over her mouth, and Ethan watched the way her eyes crinkled at the corners, the way her whole face softened when she talked about her son. There was love there. Not the polished love people post about. The tired, brave love that gets up anyway. Ethan's phone buzzed against his thigh. He ignored it at first, then it buzzed again. He glanced at the screen and felt his stomach drop. It was the babysitter. He apologized with his eyes before he even said a word. Maya noticed immediately. Is everything okay? Ethan answered the call, trying to keep his voice calm. Hi, Jenna. What's up? Jenna's voice came fast. Ethan, I'm sorry. I didn't want to bother you. But Lily's temperature went up. She's not panicking, okay? She's watching cartoons, but she feels warm. I gave her water. Ethan's chair scraped slightly as he leaned forward. Did you give her medicine? I didn't want to without asking, Jenna said. The bottle is here. I can. Ethan closed his eyes for a second. The old guilt rose fast, like a tide. I'm coming home, he said. I'll be there in 15. He ended the call and looked at Maya, throat tight. Maya was already reaching for her purse. Go, she said immediately. Ethan shook his head, torn. I'm sorry. Maya held up a hand, gentle and firm. Don't apologize for being a parent. Please. Ethan stared at her, then nodded. He reached for his wallet automatically, then froze. The irony of the motion almost made him laugh. Maya noticed. She slid her hand across the table and touched his wrist lightly. Brief, respectful. I've got it, she said. Ethan's instinct was to refuse. He had spent years refusing help. Help felt like debt. Maya's eyes held his. Ethan, go take care of Lily. This isn't a test. The word test hit him like a tender spot. He exhaled and nodded. Thank you. He stood, then hesitated, unsure what a responsible adult did in this moment. He didn't want to leave like a blur. He leaned down slightly and said, Can I call you after I check on her? Maya's mouth curved. You better. Ethan walked out into the night air, his mind racing, heart strange and full. As he drove home, streetlights streaked across the windshield like slow-moving stars. He kept seeing Maya's face when she said she knew Lily. The universe had taken two lonely parents, nudged them into the same room, and waited until they were brave enough to tell the truth. At home, Lily was curled on the couch under a blanket, cheeks flushed. Her eyes opened when Ethan came in. Daddy, she whispered, voice scratchy. Did your friend come? Ethan's chest tightened. Of course she'd ask. He sat beside her, brushing her hair back. I was with a friend, he said. How do you feel? Like a toasted marshmallow, Lily murmured. Ethan almost laughed. He kissed her forehead and felt the heat. He gave her medicine, helped her sip water, and stayed beside her until her breathing slowed into sleep. When the house finally quieted, Ethan sat at the kitchen table, elbows on the wood, head in his hands. The clock ticked loudly, each second a reminder of the fragile balance he lived inside. He checked his phone. One message from Maya. Hope Lily feels better. Noah says if she needs dinosaur stickers, he can deliver them. Ethan stared at the screen, warmth rising in his chest. He typed back, slowly. Thank you. She's asleep. You were right. This night got real fast. A moment later, Maya responded. Real is okay. Real is where we live. Ethan smiled to himself. A quiet thing. The kind that doesn't need witnesses. He called her, keeping his voice low so he wouldn't wake Lily. Maya answered on the second ring. Hey, she said softly. Hey, Ethan replied. How are you? Maya exhaled. Relieved. I thought you'd vanish. Ethan leaned back in his chair. I'm still here. A pause. Lily okay? She will be, Ethan said. Thank you for not making me feel guilty. Maya's voice warmed. Guilt is heavy. Parents carry enough. They talked for 10 minutes, then 20. Their voices low, the kind of conversation that felt like building a bridge plank by plank. Ethan found himself telling her things he hadn't told anyone outside his family. How Lily used to sleep on his wife's side of the bed after the funeral, like she was trying to fill a missing shape. How Ethan kept his late wife's favorite mug in the back of the cabinet, because seeing it in the morning made him forget how to breathe. How he had once driven to a park, watched couples pushing strollers, and sat in the car for a full hour because he didn't know how to be around happiness without feeling like an outsider. Maya didn't interrupt. She didn't fix. She listened. Then she told him about Noah. About how Noah's father wasn't violent, not in the ways people imagine, yet he could be sharp with words, and unpredictable with promises, and exhausting with control. About how Noah used to keep his backpack on in the house when he was younger, because he thought it would make leaving easier if someone argued. About how Maya once cried in a laundry room because she couldn't find matching socks, and it felt like the final proof she was failing at everything. Ethan's throat tightened. "You're not failing." Maya let out a small laugh that held no humor. "Tell that to my laundry." Ethan smiled. Mismatched socks are a sign of genius, apparently. Maya's laugh this time was real. They ended the call with a plan to try again. No grand promises. No dramatic declarations. A simple plan. Coffee after school pickup. A walk in a park where kids could run. They agreed to bring their worlds closer. Slowly. The next afternoon, Ethan picked Lily up from school. She was still a little tired, though the fever had broken. As they walked past the office, Lily tugged his sleeve. "Daddy," she whispered loudly, as if sharing a secret with the building. "That's Noah's mom." Ethan looked up and saw Maya standing near the hallway, holding a folder, hair pulled back, wearing a lanyard. Maya glanced up, met Ethan's eyes, and a smile spread across her face. Small, private, meant only for him. Lily waved at her enthusiastically. Maya waved back, then knelt down to Lily's level. "Hi, Lily. How are you feeling today?" Lily stood tall, serious. "I'm recovered." Maya nodded solemnly. "That's impressive." Lily leaned in like she had gossip. "My daddy went on a date." Ethan felt his face heat. Maya's eyes flicked up to Ethan, amused. "Did he?" Lily nodded proudly. "He's learning." Ethan covered his mouth with his hand, hiding a smile, pretending he was clearing his throat. Maya stood. "I'm glad she's better," she said, tone gentle. Ethan nodded. "Thanks. For everything." Maya's gaze softened. "We'll talk later." Ethan smiled. "Yeah." As they walked out, Lily looked up at Ethan. "Is she your girlfriend?" Ethan's step slowed. He chose his words carefully. "She's my friend," he said, "and I like her." Lily considered that with the seriousness only children can manage. "Okay," she said. "Noah says his mom makes dinosaur pancakes. If you marry her, can we have them?" Ethan nearly tripped on the sidewalk. "Slow down," he said, laughing despite himself. "We're not marrying anyone today." Lily shrugged. "Tomorrow." Ethan laughed harder. "We'll see." A week later, they met at a park with a playground and a walking trail. Maya arrived first with Noah, who was wearing, true to the legend, 2 different socks, one striped, one polka-dotted. Lily ran up to Noah like they were already best friends. The kid sprinted toward the swings, leaving Ethan and Maya standing there with that awkward parent date energy, hands full of snacks, eyes full of caution. Maya handed Ethan a paper cup of coffee. "No restaurant pressure," she said. "No twinkle lights." Ethan took it. "I miss the bread." Maya smiled. "Next time, I'll smuggle you a basket." They watched the kids for a moment. Noah pushed Lily gently on the swing, counting each push out loud like he was doing important math. Lily laughed, hair flying, a sound that made Ethan's chest loosen. Maya watched Ethan watching Lily, and Ethan watched Maya watching Noah. It felt like 2 mirrors reflecting the same kind of love. Maya broke the quiet. "I need to tell you something," she said. Ethan's stomach tightened. "Okay." Maya glanced toward the playground. "Noah's dad heard I went on a date. He wants to meet you." Ethan's jaw tightened. Not with fear, more with the weight of reality. "Meet me," he echoed. Maya nodded. He called it being responsible. It didn't sound responsible. Ethan stared at the ground for a second, then looked back at her. "Do you want me to?" Maya's eyes searched his. "I don't want conflict. I want peace. Yet I also don't want to keep hiding like I'm doing something wrong." Ethan nodded slowly. He understood. "I'm not here to replace anyone," he said. "I'm not here to provoke him. I'm here because I like you, and I respect your kid. Maya's throat worked. She blinked, steadying herself. Ethan continued, calm and clear. If meeting him helps you feel safer, I'll do it. If it makes things worse, we'll find another way. Maya exhaled. That's the kindest answer I've ever heard to that question. Ethan's voice softened. We can set boundaries. Public place. Short conversation. No arguing. Maya nodded. Yes. As they spoke, Ethan realized something important. He had spent years believing love meant risking damage. Now he was learning that love could also mean planning, protecting, and showing up with steady hands. The meeting happened 2 days later at a quiet cafe in the daytime. Noah's father, a man named Eric, arrived 5 minutes late and carried himself like the world owed him patience. His eyes scanned Ethan quickly, like he was looking for a flaw to point at. Maya sat beside Ethan, hands wrapped around a mug, posture straight. Eric's smile didn't reach his eyes. So you're the guy. Ethan didn't rise to the bait. He nodded politely. I'm Ethan. Eric's gaze flicked to Maya. You didn't mention he had a kid. Maya's jaw tightened. Because I don't owe you details about my personal life. Eric shrugged. It affects Noah. Ethan kept his voice even. Noah's well-being matters. That's why I'm here. Eric's eyes narrowed, surprised by the calm. You planning to play dad? Ethan shook his head. No. Noah has a dad. I'm not trying to erase that. I'm trying to be someone who treats him and his mother with respect. Eric leaned back, studying him. Respect. That's a nice word. Ethan didn't bite. He took a sip of water. Eric looked at Maya again. You always pick men who want to fix things. Maya's voice turned firm. He's not fixing me. I'm not broken. Silence. Ethan watched Maya in that moment. The way she didn't shrink, the way she held her ground without shouting. He felt proud of her, not in a possessive way, in a human way. Eric cleared his throat, shifting. Noah told me he played with Lily. Ethan nodded. They're friends. Eric glanced at Ethan. Your daughter, she okay with all this? The question landed unexpectedly, almost soft. Ethan answered honestly. She's been through a lot. I'm not rushing anything. I'm trying to do it right. Eric looked away, jaw working, like he was swallowing a thought he didn't want to admit. Finally, he stood. Fine. Keep it slow. Keep it clean. I won't cause a scene. Maya's eyes widened slightly. Thank you. Eric shrugged again, uncomfortable with gratitude. He left without another word. When the door closed behind him, Maya sat very still. Ethan turned toward her. Are you okay? Maya nodded once, though her eyes shimmered. I didn't think he'd say that, she whispered. He usually turns everything into a fight. Ethan leaned forward slightly. You did something different. Maya frowned. What? You stood up for yourself without armor, Ethan said. No sharpness. No apology. You spoke like you believed you deserved peace. Maya's lips trembled. She looked down at her hands. For a moment, she looked younger, like someone who had been carrying too much for too long. Ethan didn't try to turn the moment into romance. He simply sat with her. A proverb from his grandmother returned, and this time he said it out loud, quietly. A home is not built by perfect people. It's built by people who keep showing up. Maya looked at him, and her eyes softened. Is that yours? She asked. Ethan smiled. It is now. Over the next month, their lives braided together in small ways. Not big dramatic gestures. Small, steady choices. Ethan kept extra juice boxes in his car, because Noah always forgot his. Maya left a spare hair tie on Ethan's kitchen counter after Lily borrowed one, because Maya noticed Lily's hair was always in her eyes when she drew. They learned each other's schedules, the way parents learn bus routes. Sometimes they met for 10 minutes at school pickup and talked in the parking lot while the kids climbed imaginary mountains on the curb. Sometimes Ethan helped Maya carry groceries, and Noah insisted on being the strong helper, waddling with a bag of cereal like it weighed 100 pounds. Sometimes Maya sat on Ethan's couch while Lily colored, and Ethan cooked pasta, and the kitchen smelled like garlic and ordinary life. It was in those ordinary moments that the real healing happened. One evening, Lily asked Ethan if Maya could come to her family night at school. Ethan hesitated. He didn't want to confuse Lily. He didn't want to rush. Maya watched him, reading the conflict on his face. She didn't push. Instead, she said gently, "Lily, what do you mean when you say family?" Lily thought hard, marker poised above paper. "People who come," she said simply. "People who don't forget." Maya's eyes watered, and she blinked fast. Ethan's throat tightened, because Lily had just described the kind of love Ethan had been trying to earn through exhaustion. Ethan looked at Maya and nodded. "We can go," he said quietly, "if you want to." Maya's voice softened. "I want to." Family night was held in the school gym, decorated with paper chains and kids' artwork taped to the walls. Parents stood around folding tables, smiling too wide, pretending they weren't tired. Ethan walked in holding Lily's hand, and Maya walked beside him with Noah, and the kids bounced between them like happy ping-pong balls. At one point, Lily tugged Ethan's sleeve and pointed at a wall. "Daddy, that's my picture," she whispered, pride shining in her eyes. Ethan bent down. It was a drawing of a house with 4 stick figures in front of it. He counted them. One was taller with a square head, him. One had long hair, Maya. 2 smaller figures, Lily and Noah. Above them, Lily had drawn a sun with a big smile. Ethan's chest tightened, and he glanced at Maya. Maya stayed at the drawing, lips trembling. Noah looked up, then shrugged. "She forgot my socks," he said seriously. Maya laughed through the sting of emotion, and Ethan smiled, grateful for the child's perfect timing. Later, as they walked to the car, Ethan saw Lily glance back at the gym. "Are you sad?" he asked gently. Lily shook her head. "No." Then she paused. "A little." Ethan's heart squeezed. "Why?" Lily looked up at him, eyes earnest. "Because Mommy would like Noah's socks." Ethan's vision blurred. He crouched down, bringing his face to hers. He took her small hands in his. "I think she would," he whispered. "I think she'd laugh." Lily nodded, satisfied, and leaned into him. Maya watched, respectful, giving space. Ethan stood, and something inside him shifted. He didn't feel like he was betraying his late wife by letting new joy in. He felt like he was honoring her by refusing to let grief turn their home into a museum. On the drive home, Noah fell asleep with his forehead against the window. Lily hummed softly in the backseat, holding his stuffed rabbit. Maya looked out at the road ahead, quiet. Ethan kept both hands on the steering wheel, steady. At a red light, Maya spoke softly. "Do you remember what I said on our first date?" Ethan nodded, eyes on the road. "Yes." Maya swallowed. "I hated myself for it the second it left my mouth. I thought I was protecting myself. I didn't realize I was insulting you too." Ethan glanced at her. "You weren't insulting me. You were telling me your truth the only way you knew how." Maya's eyes glistened. "It's strange. I expected that sentence to be a door closing." Ethan's voice was gentle. It became a door opening. Maya looked down at her hands. "I still get scared." Ethan nodded. "Me too." A quiet moment passed. Then Ethan said, "Here's another thing my grandmother used to say. A brave heart is not one that never trembles. It's one that keeps walking anyway." Maya smiled faintly. "You have a lot of wisdom stored up." Ethan chuckled. "I have a lot of old women in my family who didn't tolerate nonsense." Maya laughed softly, and the sound felt like home. That night, after dropping Maya and Noah off, Ethan carried Lily into the house when she fell asleep in the car. He tucked her into bed, kissed her forehead, and stood for a moment in the doorway, watching her breathe. In the hallway, he paused by the framed photo of his late wife on the shelf. He hadn't moved it. He didn't want to erase her. He never would. He touched the frame lightly, then whispered, "I'm trying." It wasn't a promise to forget. It was a promise to live. Weeks later, Ethan and Maya sat at Ethan's kitchen table, while the kids built a lopsided tower of blocks on the floor. Maya looked up from her tea. "So what are we?" she asked, voice half teasing, half serious. Ethan smiled, thinking of the first night, of her tense hands on the table, of his own fear sitting like a stone in his chest. He looked at the kids, then back at her. "We're 2 parents," he said, Learning how to choose something good without being punished for it. Maya's eyes softened. That sounds complicated. Ethan reached across the table and rested his hand near Hayes. Not grabbing, not claiming, simply offering. It is, he said. It's also worth it. Maya placed her hand beside his, fingers brushing his lightly. A quiet yes. Lily squealed in the background as her tower fell, and Noah declared, "This is why architecture is hard." Ethan laughed, and Maya laughed, and the kitchen filled with the kind of noise that doesn't hurt, noise that heals. Because the truth Ethan learned was simple, even if the path wasn't. Love doesn't ask you to be less. It asks you to be present. It doesn't demand perfect timing. It asks for honest steps. And sometimes, the sentence you think will send someone running becomes the moment you both stop hiding. If you've ever had to start again with a careful heart, I'd love to hear your story. Drop it in the comments. And if this one stayed with you, give it a like and subscribe so we can share more moments like this together.